Hey there, everybody. Thank you for watching. As always, I really do appreciate it. This is part 2 in a multi-part episode I'm doing on making a counter height chair. In fact, there's a chair behind me. As part 1 came to an end, I was just wrapping up the first round of sanding of the seat for that chair. Part 2 starts out with me at the bench here, about to make the patterns I will use to shape the legs for the chair. In part 1, I mentioned that I felt it was likely that there would be a total of 3 parts to this episode. Based on where I am now, I'm thinking that's still possible, although I can't promise it won't spill over into 4. I'm hoping not, but at least 3. So with that, let's get started. Okay, here is my basic design. Now that I'm getting into this, I'm thinking I'm going to modify my design a little bit. I've been thinking how to make this work in a way that I think is stable enough. And I could probably do it, but I'm thinking now that I'm going to move this leg back a little bit, perhaps about a couple of inches, so it's set back by this same distance, and perhaps carry that all the way up to a support for an armrest. But now what I'm going to do is make a pattern for this leg out of this Baltic birch. So I think that's the pattern. So let me cut it out on the bandsaw and start smoothing it out. Now both patterns are cut. Now it's time to clean them up. All right, so now I have the patterns cleaned up, both of them. One for the front leg, one for the back leg. And so now what I need to do is trace out another piece of stock for the front leg, but trace this pattern out, do a rough cut on the bandsaw, and I'll probably use some carpet tape to attach the pattern to the stock, and then do the final shaping out on the router table. So I have modified my design a little bit. I'm going to move this leg back about 2 inches, get rid of all this. I'm gonna bring the leg all the way up to the top, basically take the arm all the way back to the leg and integrate it. That's what this piece is for on the leg. So I'm changing this up. So here's the new leg design. And so I'm just gonna trace out this pattern, take it over to the bandsaw, do a rough cut of this, and then just like with the back leg, finish it up on the router table. Now it's time to notch the seat to receive the legs. And I think I have figured out how to do this. This is the type of notch that I'm going for. So I know that this is the width of the notch. I've marked that. And this is the depth overall of the notch. So and I still am going to use here a 3/8 inch rabbiting bit to get the curve here on the outside. So I go in 3/8 all the way around. This will be curved. That should be the notch I need to cut out on the seat. Okay, so for the back, I know I brought the legs in 1 inch. So let's start there. And the width overall is 1.25 inches. So that is where the leg should be positioned, in that direction. When I made the pattern for the legs, of course, I added this piece here. So I was thinking I might do something different. But I think I'm going back to a flush, the back being flush there, so I'm thinking this might go. Let me see. Okay, now that I have the notches cut in the seat, the next thing I'm going to do is use a rabbiting bit in my router to cut this rabbet or groove around each notch for the front, actually the front and the back on the top and bottom sides. And now I need to cut the dado in the 2 front seat legs to match up with the seat. So I've gone ahead and marked the center there. I'm going to have to trim some of this up, I know, that's why I left myself extra. And the dado is going to be about 1 inch wide. Okay. Now I need to cut a 1-inch wide dado that's 3/8 of an inch deep. So use my little brass measuring stick here to set the cutter height or the blade height. And now I need to cut the roundover on the lead sections right here to match the rabbet I cut in the notches in the seat. And I've already done the front legs. Now I'm going to do the back legs on that one inside corner. Okay, so now I need to fit all of these joints together. All right, there we go. Okay, so now the chair is starting to take shape. Now I need to create the armrest. And what I'm thinking is I'm going to add a tenon there and there to attach it and start with a solid block and shape it. Have it come off of there and shape it somehow. All right, so now I'm going to make the backrest for the chair. And for that, I'm going to do a bent lamination. So I'm going to resaw. I have my 3/4 inch blade in the bandsaw. I'm going to resaw this board down. It should be enough out of here. I'm going for about a 1/4 inch thickness each slat. Then I'm going to plane it down to about 3/16 of an inch for the form. But again, I'm going to resaw this board down to do a bent lamination. So let me go ahead and start that process. And I'm marking off about a 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so now I have these boards planed down. Actually, I went ahead and went down almost to 1/8 of an inch. So what I'm going to do now is laminate them together to make the chair back. And I'm going to use this Titebond 3 PVA glue. And this form that I'm going to use is the same form I used when I made the bent arm Morris chair. That's it's on my Smug Mug page in the description. There's a link to that in the description for this channel. So I was able to cut out or identify a section of this same form that will work fine for the back of the chair. But getting back to the glue, I actually have not done, I think that might have been the last time I did a bent lamination. So it's been a while. And the times in the past that I've done this, I've always used urea formaldehyde glue. But it seems that glue is getting harder and harder to come by. I know there are some, health concerns associated with it. I've never had an issue. I've always worn a respirator. It's been fine. And I do love the long open time. But again, I've seen where others have used this Titebond 3 PVA for this type of thing, so it should work fine. Okay, this sat overnight. So let's take a look and see what we have. Now, one of the things that I've read about, I guess a complaint, or not really a complaint, but something that some have noticed when using PVA glue versus like a urea formaldehyde is the amount of spring back once you unclamp a bent lamination. So that's what I'm gonna be looking for here. I mean, it's not a severe bend, so that could be a factor, but let's see. Not a whole lot of spring back from where I'm standing, so perfect. All right, let's clean this up. Okay, now that I have finished making or cutting out the backrest, next thing I'm going to do before I take this apart is start to lay out the armrest. And what I'm going to do, as I think I mentioned earlier, is I want to basically carve or shape the armrest out of a solid block. And I've added this piece here, which will be a transition into the front leg. And likewise, I'm going to shape this as a transition from the back leg into the armrest. And I'm going to add a tenon in the back and one here to attach to the leg. Now I have laid out where the backrest is going to go on the two, be connected to the two back legs. And I've marked the center of where I'm going to cut a couple of tenons, and also obviously two matching tenons or slots for tenons on the backrest. And I'm going to use for that 8x40 dominoes. Sure it fits, but yeah. Do the same thing now on the leg. And for the back legs, this is where the backrest is going to be attached. And here are the, I guess, coordinates, if you will, of where I'm going to cut two mortises in each of the back legs. And I just have this one clamped here for some extra support. And to give myself a little wiggle room in attaching this, I'm going to use the wider cut selection, if you can, the domino. Okay, now let me see how this all goes together. And now I need to cut tenons here for the armrest. Okay, so I have cut the mortises in the front and back legs, each of them. So this is now all dry fit together.